Hi, the following episode of the Astrology of the Week Ahead was taped before I knew the election results in the United States of America. So if things sound aggressively positive given the situation, that's why. I needed to get ahead of the game so that our team could go on winter break and things could happen in an orderly fashion. And this is what happens sometimes. So I hope that the astrology still lands in a really helpful way. I just don't want you to ever think that I don't take an incoming fascist leader seriously. I take the situation that we're in exceptionally seriously. I think it's going to require all of us to do everything we can in every single moment that we can do it. And I'm here with you. We are in community together. And I just didn't want to have you thinking like, wow, is this so spiritually bypassy? And has Chani totally lost the plot? I haven't. I'm with you. And in the new year, we're going to be doing episodes much closer to the time we actually air them. But until then, please enjoy and see how the astrology lands as I'm talking about it without knowing the type of world we're moving into. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome. This is the Astrology of the Week Ahead podcast. I'm your host and your astro bestie, Chani Nicholas. Look, this week starts out with a new moon in Capricorn. Just as the year is ending, just as the next year is beginning, just after the solstice, we have a cute, productive, little self-starting new moon in Capricorn. This new moon is not blessed by Venus and Jupiter, but it is sitting in relationship with its ruler, Saturn. And that means that it is exceptionally constructive. So I really like this as like a functional remedy to how we close out a year and begin a new one, how we close out one season and begin a new one, how we think about what we're going to do to organize ourselves for the next year. When we're thinking about what we got out of last year, this new moon, I think, is going to be really helpful because this new moon is a good excuse to be like, what actually worked and why? And what about it worked? Like, this is what I did. This is the effect of what I did. These are the results of what I did and how I did it. And this is why I like that kind of setup. Or conversely, this is what I did. These were the results. It sucked or it did not meet my expectations. Therefore, I'm not going to do it in that way again. Can we really learn from our mistakes? Can we really take what the year has taught us and distill it down? That's what like new moons do. They help us to take whatever worked from the previous cycle. It's also what solstices help us to do. Like, okay, what has worked over the previous little time period? What can we distill from the previous cycle into a seed of wisdom of what worked, of what is essential that we can plant for this next go round, for this next cycle. So we can think of this moment in a couple of different ways. One is we can think of it in terms of what we want to do for the next 28 days. If there's like a pattern that we want to set over the course of the next 28 days, if there's a habit that we want to like imbue our lives with and put into the fabric of our being, then we can spend the next 28 days practicing that a little bit every day. We can also, because we just went through the solstice and maybe have had the last 9 or so days to think about what worked, we can think about what we want from now until the equinox, right? If you think of working in quarters, in segments of time, then we can consider like, okay, I've got some weeks, like 11 or so weeks to work with. What is it that I actually want to do from now until the equinox? Because the equinox can feel like, oh, that's so far away. But if we actually break it down, it's not that far away. And it will be here like everything else before we know it. So if we actually want to make sure that we're practicing something, that we're building towards something, that we're going to, yes, accomplish a couple of things, maybe one thing from now until the equinox, this is a really good time. It's a really good moment to reset and say, what can I do? Week to week and then day to day. But a little bit before that, it's like month to month, week to week, day to day. And if I fast forward all the way to the equinox, what is it that I want to make sure I have ingrained in my life, that I have accomplished, that I've done? And then if I walk it backwards, what do I need to start doing this week in order for every week from here to then to be in line with that principle or that value? Speaking of values, the next thing that happens this week that's really important is on Thursday, Venus is moving into Pisces. And this is one of the best things that we go into 2025 with. The beginning of 2025 is a little fraught because Mars is very retrograde. On Thursday, Mars is going to make its second opposition to Pluto. So I'm not saying that Thursday is a great day. What I'm saying is that we've got a little help. We've got a little amulet in our pocket. We've got a little wind beneath our wings. We've got a little bit of zhuzh and pizzazz and a little glam from the universe to help us through the challenging moment. Venus in Pisces is such a beautiful situation because Venus is said to be exalted in Pisces. And so it's up on high. So Venus up on high is the principle of connectivity and friendship and love and relationship and beauty and art and pleasure and delighting in all the good things and not missing the good things because of the stressful things. And there are enough stressful things. You know what I mean? So Venus in Pisces is like, okay, yeah, but can we float down the river a little bit? Can we enjoy this cup of tea? Can we take in this moment with our friends and our loved ones? That is the stuff of life. Also, we attract more bees with honey, and a little bit of sugar helps the medicine go down. And if we want to attract people to our movements, and if we want to move groups of people, the best way to do it is to help them to feel invited to throw the best party out there so that everyone wants to be a part of what we're doing. So Venus in Pisces brings to awareness the principle of relationship and connection and helps us to do that with a little bit more ease. Maybe not the whole time that Venus is in Pisces, and Venus in Pisces is like a whole other chapter of the year. But I just want to say that for this week, as of Thursday, it's definitely on our side. And the part of your chart that contains Pisces is extra gifted and blessed with Venus being here. It's going to help things move in a certain way. It's going to help you get the help you need. So in your reading in the Chani app this week, we focus on, yes, the new moon, what to do with it, how to make use of it, how to plan with it, and then also how to receive the blessings of Venus and Pisces. But also, because the universe loves to do that, Mars is making its second opposition to Pluto on January 2nd. So January 2nd, it's, the day after the day after. And I don't know, will the world be very active at this point? I doubt it, but Mars making an opposition to Pluto spells out something quite hefty and extreme. Now, we had a Mars-Pluto opposition on November 3rd. So this is the second round of that. On November 3rd, Mars is in Cancer and Pluto is in Capricorn, and now they've shifted signs for this moment. And they're making this opposition for this moment in these fixed signs. They're going to do this one more time at the end of April. So this is the midpoint of a story. We're also getting close to the midpoint of the Mars retrograde. So there's just, again, some tension in the air. And a Mars-Pluto opposition is always going to be somewhat of a power struggle. It's always going to unearth some kind of power dynamic that has, until this moment, been a little subterranean or a lot subterranean. It's like whatever goes on under the surface gets teased out and becomes much more obvious. So it's a little bit of a rough start to the new year. Again, let's stick with what is practically possible with that new moon in Capricorn. Let us be in the details as much as we can. Let us be in the day as much as we can. What can I do in this moment on this day? If there's like bigger power struggles that are happening in the world, maybe with politicians, maybe with leaders, this is Mars temporarily in Leo, which is about leadership, then we've got to remember that all that chaos is aimed at stealing our time and stealing our connection to our agency, and that we must remain unthwarted in our determination to do the things that we know we can do here and now, and try not to dwell on what might happen, but to instead stay with the moments that we do have some power and some control over and some authority within, so that we can work as practically and as grounded as possible, or in the most grounded way as possible. But I do expect there to be something that happens this week, the beginning of the year, that is like, oh, eye roll. That is a power grab, or that is something that feels like a little bit of an attempt to steal something. And then you might want to think about, how does your energy get stolen? I mean, all of our energy gets stolen by, again, the chaos of the systems we live within. But what can we do to redirect and to refocus and to remember the power of relationship and connectivity, as Venus in Pisces is trying to teach us? Then on Saturday, the sun makes that sextile to Saturn that was imbued, that is in the new moon on Monday. And so it's a nice day to solidify plans and like longer term situations. And that is the week. Okay, now it's time for Ask Me Anything. Y'all have been writing in with your questions, and I'm here to answer them. This one is another one that I get all the time, which is, what should I check for in somebody's chart that would make a romantic relationship good for me? Like, what do I need to know about somebody in terms of like compatibility and relationship and love and da-da-da-da-da? And this is my final answer to all of those questions. Check for the relationship. Check for the person. Check for the way they're behaving. Check for the way they're acting. Check for the way you feel when you're with them. Check in on the people and yourself and your body. Build the relationship first, then look at how the astrology works secondarily. I think that we all know this, but I just want to make sure that we start there. We have to start first with the relationship. Just because your chart and my chart link up in certain ways doesn't mean that you and I are going to. First comes the relationship, and then we see how the astrology comments on it. So all of the whole entire chart, my chart and your chart, have to be taken into consideration when we look at compatibility, right? We want to see how the whole thing interacts with the other whole thing. And there's situations where, like, if I have the sun in Scorpio and you have the sun in Gemini, those two things don't see each other in traditional astrology. Like Scorpio and Gemini don't link up anywhere. But that's information. It doesn't mean that they don't go together. It doesn't mean that they're a bad combination. They can be a phenomenal combination. It just means that there's a very different approach that both people take in regards to how they shine and the ways in which they shine. And we have to be considerate of like, okay, well, that's how that person does their life. I have to know how to love them in the way that's going to work for them and myself in order for this relationship to work. Having said that, we want to make sure, or we want to look for connections, right? Between your Venus and my Venus and moon and sun and ascendant And yes, the seventh house, the place of relationships. So I think that when, like, if your Venus connects with my moon, that's going to feel good. If my moon connects to your midheaven, I might nurture and nourish your career, because midheaven's about career and the moon is about how we take care of and nourish. If my sun is on your Jupiter, there's a good chance that we're going to be able to like hype each other up. So every combo has a unique kind of set of characteristics, and they'll work in ways that help each other out. I do this little signal a lot. For those of you that can't see me, I'm like putting all my fingers together. It's like the symbol for more, because my daughter always does that. More. We want more Sun and Jupiter together. But like your Jupiter on my descendant, on my point of relationship, is probably going to encourage me to grow, or it's going to help me to feel like there's an expansiveness to our partnership. Your moon and my Mars, if they are at the same point, I mean, I might galvanize you into action to take care of yourself, but I also might annoy you, you know, like, and that's not bad for a relationship. We're all going to annoy each other at some point. It's about how the components of everybody's chart is relating to each other. But mostly it's about how you as a human relate to another human, and how you work through conflict, how you create conditions for safety and intimacy and accountability. That's what matters the most, first and foremost. And then every single thing in my chart means something, and every single thing in your chart means something, and you see where they come together. So where do we share placements, like planet and sign, or where are they complementary? Like, say if I've got 7 planets in Aries, God help me, and you have 1 planet in Leo, those are all fire signs. So your Leo planet is going to speak to my Aries planet, and we're going to get really fiery and creative together. If you've got 3 planets in Pisces and I have 1 in Scorpio, those are all water signs. My Scorpio is going to be able to like move in and like secretly support you, and probably help you to feel like you're able to be direct and defend yourself, maybe covertly. But you know what I mean? Like, there's ways in which each planet in each sign functions. And then you want to see if there's relationships. And if the relationship is a square, then there's friction. Friction isn't bad. It causes action, but it's also agitating. So if you want to like settle down and be comfortable, the agitation might get in the way. But if you want to grow and you need a little bit of agitation to do that, that's also good. If planets are sitting in opposing signs, like my planet and your planet are in opposing signs, say my sun is in Leo and your sun is in Aquarius, those are opposing signs, we're going to do things very differently. But maybe you also have a moon in Leo, and then it's like, oh, well, that part of you and this part of me understand each other. And then this other part of you, the Aquarius part of you, is like, oh God, you guys always need so much attention. You know? And so there's like multiple parts of you, and there's multiple parts of me, and all of those parts come together when we come together, and we have to see how they link up. But I think one of the most important things is that I'm in relationship with all of the different parts of myself. I'm in relationship with the totality of me, so that when you come along and love me, are annoyed with me, trigger me, applaud me, all of that, I still know who I am and how I operate, and I'm not depending on you for anything, but I know very much how interdependent we are and how we work together and why we work together in that way. So again, everything has a distinct quality in your chart. It's about you being in relationship with those different things, those different placements, and then everything in somebody else's chart has a distinct quality. And it is about how those things come together, how they irritate each other, how they complement each other, how they applaud each other, how they might try to drag each other down. I didn't talk about Saturn, but you know, like if someone's Saturn is opposing your moon, it might feel like, why are they always trying to boss me around or like inhibit me from living out my thing? But then you have to be like, well, why would I let them do that? You know, so it's always these like questions that we want to be asking ourselves. It's never about the signs. It's not like, oh, that person is a Taurus, so I'm not going to get along with them because I'm a Leo or something silly like that. Just That's not a thing. It's like we're all a variety of a lot of things, and we have to first work on the relationship. What is the relationship? How am I meeting the relationship? How is this relationship fostering my best and making me grow? And do I want to invest in it? And then the astrology can reflect certain things about it that are helpful, hopefully. Hopefully they help to give us context for our relationship issues and situations and blessings. One thing to note. I did a 2025 year ahead reading for you. I look at each quarter for you, for your rising sign, because it's the most specific way to look at how these transits are impacting you, I believe. You can also look at the transit section in the Chani app to see where these big transits are working for you. But the first quarter of the year is so huge. Most things happen in March. March is like a banner month. And I will say that the first quarter, the second quarter, and the third quarter of the year hold massive changes because Saturn is going to change sign. Well, first Neptune is going to change sign, and then Saturn is going to change sign, and then Uranus is going to change sign. Also, Jupiter will change signs. And Pluto has already just changed signs. And then we've got the nodes changing signs. So we've got a new round of eclipses coming. It's a year of change. It's a year of brand new chapters being opened up, which means something for us collectively, but of course means something for you personally. When a planet that takes so long to change signs, like Neptune and Pluto and Uranus, all change signs within a couple months of each other, it's a shocking situation. I can't remember a year where this all happened together. This is very unique to 2025. So we have a change of guard in a lot of ways, and there is a new area of life, or many new areas of life, that we're going to be focusing on this year. There's like a new presence in town, and we're beginning the year with a Mars retrograde. We're then going to move into a Venus retrograde as soon as Mars stations direct. And then we're going to have these major planetary shifts, one after the other. So we wanted you to be really prepared. We have the year ahead readings for you for your sign. Once again, every quarter of the year is covered. And so it is an overarching look at how to work with the year for you quarter by quarter. And so you can use those readings to really think about, okay, this section of the year, these 12 weeks, I want to make sure I do this with. And then these 12 weeks, I want to make sure I do this with. And then in the app, under the weekly tab, I give you week by week readings to parse out like the day by day kind of small minutia of things, like the new moons and like the full moons. But in the year ahead, I tell you like the big moments and the best days overall for the year in total. So make sure you listen to your year ahead reading. I am sending you so much love. Many, many, many new moon blessings. Let's remember to stay as practical, as tangible, and as in our agency and power as is possible. Come back next week and we will talk about the fact that next week the nodes change signs. Also, Mars moves back into Cancer. It gets a little phlegmy. You know what I'm saying? So come back. We'll talk about what all of that means and more. Bye for now.